How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and let's take a look at some Pokemon leaks, rumors, and everything in between. So, we're going to be starting things off with this post right here, which is only a small thing to start with, which is a post that was made by Ball Guy back on the 22nd of June about specifically P30, which is supposed to be a project being worked on by Omori, another new Pokemon project. And he says, if anyone who finds this has, and this was in reference to a trademark that was made for something called Pokemon Spot. He says, if anyone who finds this has a shred of care for it, I believe this project is known as P30. Omori had a role overseeing this development. And then here is a post from Soul who says, Pokemon Spot may just be an arcade game, but ended up giving us a new leaked project. The P30 project that Omori is overseeing could be a separate project that still exists, and P30 still sounds like Project Pokemon 30 to me. It could still be a 30th anniversary surprise game, which I kind of doubt, but it says, I wasn't clear enough. I'm saying Pokemon Spot is its own separate thing, a China exclusive arcade game, which we now know it is, and then P30 could also be its own thing, separate from Pokemon Spot. So who knows? We'll actually have to wait and see. Other than that, though, we do have some other stuff to talk about. Like, for example, right here, it's about specifically this post that was made by, well, again, Ball Guy, but it connects to a bunch of stuff with Raichu, because Raichu's been getting a lot of love, and he says here, Soul, they're even taking over Pokemon Winds and Waves, and it's a picture of Raichu, and then right down here, it's Ball Guy who posted it, saying, boy, do I do hope that that one is a child of a known character, or else From Kanto setting is super wasted. I guess referring to Winds and Waves, but this is about the plot mainly. So here's what he says. For context, apparently one of our champions in Winds and companions, in Winds and Waves is from the Kanto region and could be related to a Raichu and or Lieutenant Surge in some way. So here's what he says. Slightly. Champion is epic, but also shows some hostility towards you at first as you protect the Seed Pokemon. Now, the Seed Pokemon we've spoken about before, it's essentially a Pokemon companion you're going to have with you that's going to change depending on how you interact with it in the game. Now, speaks to you in a way that screams he will do anything to protect the region no matter what it involves. There's elements of ongoing sickness with one of your friends too. Then somebody says, the original plan had two friends, a local one who wanted the region to not be ruined from land developers, and a friend who was the child of an evil CEO and wasn't aware of the repercussions. Were the plans and concepts for these altered or outright changed, added, or more friends? 3 of them apparently, so 1 was added, and 1 is from Kanto. So who knows? Is this going to be a character who's going to have like a Mega Raichu? Is Mega's even going to be in this game? I kind of doubt it, but it's intriguing to see. And even Soul says, if you read into this a little more, this could all potentially further suggest that Megas could be returning in Pokemon Winds and Waves. Potentially. There's no guarantees for that, I'll be honest with you. But then there's also been this new account, which I haven't seen this account before, but this account's been coming out and saying stuff, and I'm not sure if this can be trusted, but it's the equivalent of a 4chan post, so take it with a grain of salt. But they said here, apparently, that both Legends Genesis and as of now unnamed Project Seed are running on the modified Winds and Waves tech, similar to how PLA, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and Scarlet and Violet were intertwined. Genesis is helping develop environmental assets for Seed in collaboration with Monolith Soft. So this is the account of this person, and we can go through some of their tweets here because there's been a lot of these tweets lately. So we're gonna have to go through all of them and see if there's anything to glean, because like I said, there's a lot of them, okay? There's like literally so many of these tweets that we can look at and see what they have to say. They even retweeted the plot leak from Soul, but then here's one of the things they said. So Karasu, if you guys do not know, there is a project known as Project Karasu for Pokemon. I'm gonna see if I can get there's actually a fan game too called Pokemon Karasu, but there is a Project Karasu, which is supposed to be a new project that's meant to replace the next Legends game, or what they were planning on making as the next Legends game. At least that's the rumored thing. But he says it's currently slated for a second half of 2029 release. It's Legends 3, a Kanto sequel set 10 years in the future. Features Johto and Kanto, with a map size rivaling Winds and Waves' Winds and Wave, first open world Kanto game. You know what? As much as I hate the Kanto pandering, I really do hate it. I do despise when they constantly pander to Kanto. I will say the idea of a Legends Kanto plus Johto game with an open world, but still Kanto and Johto, actually sounds amazing, because then it breaks the idea of how we usually play Kanto, which is very much like sterile and always the same. Which, not to say that I think the game design and world design of Kanto is amazing, but it's interesting to even hear this. Like the ID sounds genuinely intriguing, though again, Kanto pandering. I would have loved just Johto, but Johto always comes with Kanto, so technically is this a Johto game? I don't know. But either way, feature Johto and Kanto with the map size rivaling Winds and Waves, which that makes me then curious how big in size is Winds and Waves going to be if they're going to be able to make an open world version of Kanto and Johto. Does that Winds and Waves essentially, is that bigger than those two regions combined? Because that would be pretty sick. Focus on Mew along with a Ho-Oh-Lugia subplot. Okay, that's completely fair. That kind of makes sense, I guess. And the tentative title is Legends Genesis. So that's what Genesis is in this context. So interesting. Then somebody here actually asked, because they were talking about some of the evolutions and stuff. And Halo here says, or somebody asked, Final Gekwa and Brout typing evolution. They say here, apparently Halo, that it's going to be Water, Psychic, and Grass Ground. I don't know how I feel about Grass Ground for Brout. And Water Psychic sounds kind of fair. Frozen Scott guessed them right somehow. Then here is another thing. Both Legends Genesis, this Kanto game, and the as of now unnamed Project Seed, which, by the way, Project Seed is an entirely different project. It's supposed to be, if I remember correctly, I think that was meant to be the MMO-style Pokemon game, like with multiple regions, are running on modified Winds and Waves tech, similar to how PLA is called about. So yeah, that's the thing we read earlier. Genesis is helping develop environmental assets for Seed in collaboration with Monolith Soft, which Monolith Soft people make, Xenoblade and those games, they're really great at that sort of stuff, so it makes sense. Currently, the internal candidates for Pokemon Gen 11, now this is really looking further ahead. Currently, the internal candidates for Pokemon Gen 11 are Australia, Greece, and the United States West Coast, including Baja California. What is Baja California? I don't know much about the US, so. Originally, they were planning on starting full development in 2030, but it does seem like it will happen, it seems like it will happen until 2031 at the earliest. Okay, that's a interesting situation. Continuing, they say the scope of Seed has expanded beyond what Game Freak has anticipated. They were able to get a larger budget approved by the Joint Production Committee. They're pulling in support studios from all over East Asia and America to meet their deadline, which delays Gen 11. Okay, so the scope of Seed. So keep in mind, we are talking about 3 different Pokemon games here. We have Winds and Waves, which is Generation 10, which is coming out next year. We have Pokemon like Project Karasu, which I guess I'm assuming is Legends 3, which now this person is referring to as Pokemon Legends Genesis, which is supposed to be a Kanto game. So that's the second thing we have. And the third thing we have is Project Seed, which is supposed to be a sort of multi-region open world Pokemon game where you go through several Pokemon regions, at least the original ones like Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, as far as I'm aware, I think are the ones. And I think Kitakami is supposed to be included in that as well, based on the old leaks. So that is 3 different projects, and he's now mentioning Gen 11, which would happen after 2030. So if we're looking at this in order, if they were to release everything in the order of like the next coming years, it would look something like this. 2027, we would have Gen 10, right? Like that would be, what do you call it? That would be Winds and Waves, right? Next year. So we'd have that, followed by, so that's, what would that be? Like 2027. And then following that up, we'd have, I guess, a DLC in 2028, right? Would be a DLC, followed by a new game, that being the Legends game, probably in 2029, followed by 2030 being when we get, I'm assuming Project Seed would be coming out then. And I guess that would allow them then to have Project Seed out for a while, or even maybe have a gap year. Maybe 2029 might have no game release. Maybe 2030, sorry, might have no game release, or like there's going to be a year in between now, because I think we have to get used to the idea and the fact that we will not be getting stuff every single year anymore. I think we need to get used to the fact that we are going forward going to have to just live with the fact that we're not going to get a new Pokemon game every single year. There's going to be gap years. I mean, even next year, we might get the DLC already a few months after the release, because we do know that apparently internally, there is a lot of problems over at Game Freak with the performance of the DLCs. Apparently, the DLCs have been garbage for them in terms of performance, and they're looking at sort of replacing those DLCs with something else, because the overall revenue from the DLC has not been at that same level as selling third version games. Like, think about how also third version games have evolved over time. If you think about it, back in the day, it all started with Pokemon Yellow was the first third version game, followed by the next third version game, which was Crystal. Followed by that, we had Emerald, which was these were all third version games, and then Platinum was the one for Sinnoh. So you had Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and then Platinum, but then it changed with Gen 5 when they decided instead of just making it a regular third version game, they would make it a sequel by not just making it like Pokemon Gray version, which is what everybody was speculating back in like 2010 and stuff. Instead of making it, Pokemon Gray version, they made Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, which was a big, like sidelining and sort of, curveball compared to what people were used to. It was very much a change of pace. And then after that, we got, what did we get? We got no version, a third version for X and Y, which was the first time we got no third version. That was weird. Followed by the next third versions, which was Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which also weren't a Pokemon, you know, what were we thinking about back then? Pokemon Stars is what we thought it was going to be called, but no, they made an entire, like, they did a black and white type of situation with it, you know, with giving you a little bit of a different story, some changes and stuff like that, but, you know, overall, an improved type of game. So they did that, and then again it changes going forward, because then they removed the third versions completely, starting with Sword and Shield, and instead make DLC to serve as that third version for them to be able to capitalize further on an already existing game. But as we've seen with Sword and Shield, with Legends EA, and with Scarlet and Violet, the DLCs apparently have not been doing well enough. They have not been making enough money, so they're probably going to try to make something else. What that something else is going to be, we don't know. Is it going to be a third version again? Who knows? Is it going to be a definitive deluxe edition of the existing games? Who knows? I really don't know what they're going to do here, because it just, based on what we're hearing, it's not really looking like it's going to be a easy solution, as in like, oh, we're just going to make more DLC, because that doesn't seem like to be the case. But either way, the fact that it says here, though, the scope of Seed expanded beyond what Game Freak has anticipated, and the fact that they've been able to approve a larger budget is actually a good thing, because a larger budget means they will have more people to work on it, more people to get it right, and more time, hopefully. So yeah. Next thing, though, he posted was that both Game Freak and Nintendo have very high hopes for Seed. That would be the multi-region game, which I think is also supposed to be almost like a MMO type of game, as it could finally become the live service entry they need. Their mobile products haven't been generating the revenue they wanted, particularly Pokemon Unite, so they're pivoting towards a console offering. So I've kind of been expecting this to be the case all along, right? And I am surprised, I am genuinely surprised that they never really fully committed to making a Pokemon MMO. Because Pokemon lends itself to being an MMO very well. We can see this with like fan projects out there like Poke MMO, right? Or Pokemon Revolution, or really one of many games that exist out there. I mean, just look at this, right? Like, this is a game that has thousands of players at time. I don't know what the player base like size is at the moment, but the mere fact that they actually have like a player base that plays this game actively and constantly. I mean, even their forums are active right now with a decent amount of people. Like, my point is just that this is an entirely like, you know, outside of official type of stuff, you know, like outside of the official you know, Pokemon thing that exists. It's an entire game that's being played by a bunch of people in multiplayer, and it works. It functions as a multiplayer game. It functions as a multiplayer offering. Now imagine if this was official and they made something like that, but officially did it. Brother, they could do so well with it. This could really work out well, but it's all just a matter of, you know, if they manage to pull it off and if they even try it. So yeah, but we'll see how they actually do that. And the next thing, though, he says a mobile port is being explored, however, not enough space. I guess, yeah, he's just, what he's trying to say here is that there is a mobile port apparently of the Seed game that I guess they're considering. Also, there is a bit of drama between them here. I'm not going to get into that, but it is what it is. Also, they're judging here, but apparently, according to Light, he says that there's going to be, or at least this is what the inspiration is going to be for the legendaries. According to Halo, he's LARPing, and it's not true. However, according to what Light had to say, because I don't know who to trust here in this regard, and just again, take all this with a grain of salt. But he says the Winds legendary is a Garuda-inspired legendary, and the Waves legendary is a Naga Mermaid legendary, which I think we've already heard this before as a theory and not really like a confirmed thing, but it is what it is. Also, in regards to this entire post from Halo here, Raichu and Eevee actually had a bit of a point to say, saying, obviously we all know that Kanto is already very overexploited, but what is certain is that Pokemon Legends 3 will be in Galar region and not in Kanto due to the leaked documents and a series coming in 2027 setting up what's next, plus various hints in ZA, which, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Galar references, but I'm gonna be honest with you, in recent times, the ability for them to pivot has been very, very possible. And the information we saw back in the day doesn't really confirm anything. So I don't know who's right here. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions. Maybe Raichu is correct. There is a lot of Galar hints, and there was an entire Galar tech demo, essentially, that existed in the files that were leaked by, you know, by the Terra leaker and everything. So We'll have to wait and see if anything comes from that, obviously. Also, this is again coming from, I guess this is Raichu taking that source from Halo or whatever, saying that, you know, the candidates for Gen 11 being Australia, Greece, West Coast of the United States. Again, we've spoken about this already a bit, so yeah, just further wanted to emphasize that. Also, according to Mood, according to another random Pokemon League account, the starter final Evo types are Fire Fairy, Water Psychic, and Grass Ground, all in the decent types except probably Brout, which a 4-time weakness to Ice is rough. So yeah, that would suck if he is Grass Ground. I really do not want to see that, to be honest with you, but who knows, man. We'll see what comes from it. Also, same thing again about this whole subject, the news and leak. Karasu projects, you know, we already spoken about this. It's the same thing that was posted by Halo, I'm guessing. So not much to glean from that. We already spoken about the typing. So I think we pretty much summarized everything important for today. There's obviously a few more things that we could speak about technically, I guess. Like, for example, that Pokopia is going to be having a demo for the new DLC that's going to be coming out. It's going to be playable at the, I think, what is this? It's going to be at World Championship. Yeah, so the World Championship in August. So that's pretty neat. And yeah, that's going to be coming as well. I'm going to be covering that on the channel once it drops. Also, according to Pokemon Rapid Info, the official Pokemon account has changed their profile picture, which interesting choice to change it to. Who knows if this hints at anything? We'll have to wait and see. And also, another thing here is from Soul, who says, can't wait till 2028. Dynamax is 99% confirmed to be coming to Champions eventually, and I really hope that when it does, it will be coupled alongside a new mainline game that gives us a 30+ new Gigantamax forms, which, yes, it makes total sense if that was with a Legends game, let's be honest. And we know that Legends was the next planned thing. So I do wonder who's right here. The Halo fella who says that we're going to be getting a Kanto Johto Legends game, or the original leaks, which literally showed us a Galar game. I think Galar makes the most sense with this as well, because they want to get champions all hooked up and connected to, you know, with the mainline games and all that, with like, you know, like updates and patches and events and all that. So we'll have to wait and see, man. Honestly, we'll have to wait and see if anything comes from it. At this point, who actually knows? Also, by the way, it looks like Nintendo is currently working on a version 2 Switch 2 with a new LCD screen. One of the biggest flaws of the Switch 2 is that this screen is pretty bad, so maybe they finally listened and the new screens are going to be fixed up. But yeah, so a new version is being apparently worked on, or some sort of revamp. But we'll have to wait and see if that is actually true. And then also an interesting thing from Hidden Power here, sharing that Nintendo President Furukawa was recently asked if Nintendo DS and 3DS games will be playable on the Switch 2. And of course, he gave very much a non-answer, but he just said, I can't answer your question specifically, but we are working to make our valuable back catalog playable on current hardware wherever possible. I don't really know, man. I don't think we're going to see any DS or 3DS games on the Switch 2 anytime soon. They're more willing, like you have to understand, they're more willing to invest $10 million into developing an entire remake game of one of those games, which we've already, like, they would rather remake Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire again, which is already a remake of Ruby and Sapphire, rather than giving you something like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. They'd rather remake Johto than just give you Heart Gold Soul Silver, purely because that's just going to make them more money, and also then you're sort of like, you're kind of stuck with it. But again, it is what it is. Not much else I'm going to say in regards to that. Also, we have the new theme for the Pokemon 30th anniversary this year. It's a special video revealing it, but the theme is Seeing, which I don't really know what exactly that's meant to refer to. Maybe just seeing the world, exploring the world, flying around the world. I'm guessing that's what it's referring to. It's a bit of an interesting thing to go for a motif. Sorry, that's the next month's one. This one's is going out, right? So I guess exploring, right? But yeah, it's interesting. Nothing has really came from it. No announcements beyond that. It is what it is. Also, a bit of a theory from none else than Soul here about Brout. He says Brout is probably a sprouting coconut. Coconuts are everywhere in the tropics, and Indonesia is the largest coconut producer in the world. Game Freak really loved pushing the whole Executor is a palm tree in Alola. So, how could they do it again? Make it part of the starter design. And then here, he says, I grew up with the tropics, so this is normal to me, but some might not know that this is what the sprouting coconut looks like, which, hey, that's kind of cool, actually. You know, that actually kind of does look a little bit like Brout's, like, little face, but I kind of doubt this would be the case. It would be kind of cool, though, if it was. Like, I ain't gonna pretend like it wouldn't be kind of interesting and cool to see. But yeah, he pretty much just says this could mean that Brout's final Evo could be a bird with a long neck and wild palm fronds leaves for hair. So the type of flightless emu or terror bird works with that. Again, we'll have to wait and see if anything else comes from him there in that regard. I don't think it's going to be a coconut basis for it, but we'll have to wait and see, honestly. Who actually knows? But yeah, I haven't really seen him mention much about the whole Legends Kanto game as far as I can see, so there's not really much we can add to that from him at least. But for now, from me, I'm going to say, honestly, I am kind of skeptical on the whole Kanto Johto like Legends game. I do think it's very possible because it is just like the most popular stuff they could use to base it on. Kanto is the most popular. Just look at how much like Fire and Leaf Green were able to just garner in terms of just money and sales from just re-releasing them on the Switch, right? Now imagine that with a game that's, you know, completely new, that appeals to an even larger audience, is open world and yada 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 yada, with newer graphics and all this crap. It's such a much larger scale that you can make so much more money off of, and especially when you base it on Kanto, because then all the, you know, Gen 1ers are going to just jump in and buy it. So yeah, it is what it is though. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy, just drop a like down below, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out and bye-bye.